I'll just do the introduction because I'm only a user of all those nice tools that the other people in EDI have been developing. And if we have time in the end, I'll show you what I've been doing with those tools after they've been introduced. So to start with, just a reminder, EDI has a new website. It's now EDIrepository.org. So if you have links to the old website, please change them and point to the new one. And along the same lines, I would like to welcome Risa. And if you need any help, there's a lot of material on this new website. And we also have an introductory data management course that runs in early June. And you and other people are welcome to participate. Just please contact us if you are interested. And with that, I'll pass it on to Mark, who will be doing the first part of this. And I'll stop the sharing and he can start to talk about the dashboard and the other reporting tools within the portal.
Hey, can everybody hear me okay? All right, thanks. It's always a challenge in Zoom to get things to work. So excellent, thanks everyone. Yeah, so what Corinne is just the introduction, just gonna be a quick overview of some of the tools that we provide in the dashboard. And let me just go there. So there's two parts of what I want to do, is just a brief introduction to the dashboard itself, and then to touch on one other aspect of the existing data portal and some of one tool specifically in the data portal, the audit reporting tool there. The dashboard itself, you can see here's the dashboard.edirepository.org. I just want to kind of preface this and say that, you know, we developed the dashboard more as an internal tool for us to see what's going on within the system, but it's kind of grown organically, and there's been some tools that have been developed in support of the sites and some of our user base. So it's kind of a mix-up between tools that we use internally and tools that potentially could be useful to some of the information managers or other users within the system. And specifically, there's a report section on the dashboard. And in that report section, there's a number of items in the menu. The little graphic here shows the number of links to different types of reports. The first three are available to only administrators in the dashboard itself. There's more private data in there than we really want to expose to the general public. But the section that's highlighted in yellow are all publicly accessible tools. So feel free to use those tools as necessary. And there's really four specific tools in here. There's this package tracker, the recent uploads, the upload report, and a site report. And it's easier to actually show you what these are in person. So I'm just going to go to the dashboard. If you go to the dashboard, what you'll see, and I want to confirm you are seeing a dashboard right now, right? You're not seeing my Gmail or anything like that. Okay, good. You'll see that there's a number of menus up here at the top, but under reports, what you want to do is select one of these elements up here. And let me just go to the package tracker. It's a fairly simple tool. You'd need to enter a specific package identifier, which includes the scope, the actual identifier, and the revision number. And this actually hits our system. It looks at a lot of aspects of a particular data package, and I'm not going to run it because it does take a little time to actually get through these. But here is what the outcome looks like. So you'll see a data package status report. It tells you what the identifier is, the package ID of what that report was just run on. It gives you the title of that data package, the actual PASTA identifier, which is the internal identifier, provides you the DOI, when it was published, and this one specifically was published in 2017. And then if you look at the actual resources, it gives you information about those individual resources. So if you plot this, these are the downloads of those resources. So if you want to look at these resources, these are not filtered in any way. So these are somewhat just the raw data values in terms of downloads and things like that. But if you're seeing some type of, if you want to look at what the raw data are for a particular data package, you could do that here. We also display the data one status, since we do actually have two member nodes. We have an LTER member node to data one and an EDI data node, or GMN member node. In this case, this is the EDI generic member node. It talks about basically the resources itself and when they were actually created on the member node, and then also when they were synchronized to the data one coordinating node. So you do see some latency between these once in a while, but it gives you kind of good information here. And then it also lets you know whether or not that data package has been indexed in data one's Solr interface. Again, these reports were designed for us to use mostly internally, but they potentially can be useful for the information managers and other users of this. And there's no way to filter at this point on like particular aspects of it. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just that particular package itself. The recent uploads are broken down into three versions. There's a, what were the recent uploads in the last day, the last 7 days, and the last 30 days. And if I actually click on that, you'll see what these uploads are. And then you can actually look at a list of those uploads. And again, internally, this is important for us just to see kind of the frequency of uploads from the different sources that we're getting data. And just kind of a little bit of not really even an Easter egg, but you can actually go up here into the query window itself if you wanted to change the number of days you wanted to look at. So say you wanted to look at the last 10 days, you can just enter that in there and that will also work. Now you can go back in time, you can look at 500 days if you want, but realize the more you're requesting, the longer it's going to take to actually get a result back from that type of report. The next report I just want to mention real quick is an upload report. In this case, this is all the data uploads for a particular scope within our repository itself. And you can actually give it a start date and an end date. And it provides a similar type of list of content in terms of the uploads. I can demonstrate this. Let's EDI scope. Let's just do the, for the month of May. And let's go to the end of the month, even though we haven't quite got there yet. And it will just provide you a list of the uploads. And we've only had 2 uploads in May so far. And then the last report of note is the site report. And what this provides you is basically a list of all data packages from that particular scope that has been uploaded over the entire duration of the project itself now. So I can just, this is going to be a long list since we have a little over 1,000 data package now. So those are the types of reports that are likely useful for you on the dashboard. I also just want to point out there's also not the reservations, but the working on report. So this may be important if you actually submit a data package either for an evaluation or an upload. There's nothing actually active at this point in the repository, but what this tells you basically is what data package is being operated on at this time in terms of the upload. So it gives you some information, and this shows you all 3 of our systems, so production, staging, and development. So that may be a little helpful in that regard. The last part I just want to talk about is the audit reporting. And on the audit page itself, and I can show you here. So this has evolved. The last month, we've been trying to simplify this page. We used to have 2 reports that were available here. One was very complex with a lot of detailed query information. We realized that very few people actually are using that detailed part. So what we've done is condensed it into a simple data package access report. So you can simply, enter a particular scope, an identifier, and a revision. You can select what type of resource you're interested in. We also filter on the user agent, and what the user agent is depending on the request that's coming in to access one of these resources, it allows you to filter on that. And so let me just do a quick example. Now the problem here, this could take a few minutes to actually run. So let's just say 1. And what we see here, so some of the other changes is we used to limit this to only 1,000. Now there's some level of pagination, so you can actually get a page at a time. So we show 24 at a time. The user agent itself, we're not seeing any of the early content that has a user agent. Let's see if we can find anything that has that. I don't see any here. So what this provides, though, is an ability to see what's been downloaded. And again, this is raw content coming out of the audit records that are part of the underlying data repository. So that may be of use to some users. One aspect of this that we are not providing at this point is what we wanted to do, and we're working on right now to try to improve the performance of that, is to allow you to download a CSV file of this. Because our database is about 32 million records at this point, if somebody were to actually request all the data from the beginning of, actually it only goes back to 2018 now, and if you were to request a full set of data at that point, what we were running into are timeout issues on here. So we're actually refactoring that process. So at this point, right now, all you have access to is the page views. And that pretty much wraps up what we have available in terms of the audit report. And I will stop my share. Let me see if I can actually find a good example here. Yeah. Let's just leave EDI there. It's not going to show all of that. Come to some of these like. Here we go. So what the user agent is the client that is used to make the request to the Pasta API, depending on what resource it's requesting. So in this case, you can see that there's been a Python request, there's a curl request here, a couple of different libraries of curl. This could be RStudio that's actually making the request. There are the Google bots that are in here. This is a browser, but in this case, it's a browser using, actually a bot. Let's see, I don't see any plain old browser requests in here. And what we provide is the ability to, you can filter on that particular Google agent. So let's just say I want to look for just Mozilla. And so here you can actually see some plain old request. So in this particular request here, this is probably a real user. They were not logged in. Probably about of the non-robots, probably 99% are not authenticated users. So you're just going to see this public user ID here. It tells you the resource that was requested, the type of request that was made, and then the date that it was requested. So Greg, I don't know if that helps answer that question, but there's a lot of detail in that user agent. We're also implementing the ability to filter out on that particular user, so you can exclude, say, robots, or if you want to exclude or just look at only the public users, you can do that, or a specific user. We don't have that yet implemented.
And talk for a few minutes about the EDIutils R package, and say a few words about the EDI REST API in general. So the EDIutils R package is a client for the Environmental Data Initiative Repository REST API, which is a very feature-rich API that allows you to basically do anything you can manually through the data portal, you could do programmatically through the REST API. So you can perform tasks like evaluations and uploads. You could browse and discover data, and list and access data package specific resources, and so on. And so the EDIutils R package is essentially just a wrapper around the EDI REST API to make working with the API a little bit simpler for our users. And the EDIutils is now on our Open Science. So we completed development of that resource and are publishing it through the R Open Science organization to reach a broader audience. This will be moving to CRAN in the not too distant future, or not moving, but it will also be published in CRAN, so you don't have to use the special install GitHub procedures to get the R package working. And EDIutils really follows development on the Pasta REST API. So we could deviate and start implementing a bunch of features in the EDIutils R package, but that excludes then non-R users. And so we really want to be integrating any of these new reporting functions and features that you all would like to see in the data portal first, and then over here at the EDIutils, kind of mirror that functionality as it comes along. So Corinna has created a couple nice articles that you can find over there at the EDIutils website for retrieving citation metrics and download metrics. And the first on citation metrics is an article demonstrating how to query the repository for journal articles that cite a certain data package, and then work those data into some reportable unit that you would like to include. And the steps for doing this are basically list all your data package identifiers, so all the data packages you own or have created, get the citations for each data package, and then group them and count them in whatever way you see useful. And so there's a link here to that article. And the second is retrieving the download metrics. So this demonstrates how to query the API for download metrics. The stats obviously can be used for any sort of reporting that you may find to be of interest. There's a little bit of work that needs to go into that, as Mark was kind of alluding to, with filtering out particular user agents that may be robots and so forth. And we do take as much as many steps as possible to providing that information to allow you to meaningfully interpret those metrics that are returning from the read data resources operations and so forth. And so the steps in this article are basically you need to authenticate. As Mark mentioned, you need to have an EDI account to access the Audit Manager database. You construct a query to the database to get back all the records of interest, and then you do some munging of filtering the records and grouping into a meaningful unit for yourself. So down here we have like a very small graph. I know it might be kind of hard to see, which is the daily downloads for the North Temperate Lakes site from October of 2021 through May of this year. And it's just the total number of downloads, excluding robots and excluding some other user agents. But if you're not an R user, that's not a problem. The EDI REST API is language agnostic, and you could check out the full API documentation over at the Pasta Plus read the docs at this URL here. And I would like to extend an invitation to anyone that needs a hand operating the Pasta API to feel free to contact me directly or any of us on the team at info or support at EDIrepository.org. I know that there's a little bit of a learning curve here, but once you get into it and once you see the different API methods a few times, it really becomes pretty straightforward to interact with. So happy to lend a hand if you have any questions there. And I'd like to pass the mic over to Corinna, unless there are some questions regarding this section of the presentation.
I just want to finish up the tools part here with more tools that we're not talking about today. And I would like to put in a few plugs for the ASM because there will be some workshops that will go into more details on this here. So there's EasyML for information managers. There's a lot of new functionality, and there are a lot of YouTube videos that explain this functionality with especially importing EML from EDI and developing templates for certain patterns of metadata. But as I said, we're not going further into it. And there's an EcoCom DPR package that helps with formatting data set. The same one is, a similar one is currently being developed for HIMET DP. I'm sure we'll be talking about it. And Colin is working on Easy Catalog, which is a application that was mostly developed by Tim Whittaker. And we're now in the process of making it available to other sites and other groups. So I think the first one will probably go into a Gleon website, and maybe Neon is interested in this too. And then another plug for an ASM workshop here, the Zotero JavaScript search client, which is also developed by Tim Whittaker. And I think at the ASM, we'll be talking about how to manage data sets in Zotero as well as other products. And we just implemented that search client with other products for EDI on the new website. So you can search everything that EDI has ever done or wish to have done. No, only what we have done. And then the last one here is actually a GitHub repository that I'm working on right now. So it's in development, and currently it has the fair analysis code in there that I've been using lately. And I think I talked about this already. So it's in development, and I promise that I will publish all the code that I have recently developed. And I have developed this code for all of this that I'm going to be talking about right now. So there was a question about reporting data use by subject, at least that came through from the LTR exec. And I have done a fair amount of work on this and thinking about it. So I'm sure you've all seen these word clouds. This is just keywords from all the EDI file, EML files that are in EDI. And nicely, you can see that our core areas are dominating the picture, at least to a certain degree: disturbance, populations, primary productivity. But then organic matter and inorganic nutrients are about as frequently used as temperature, for instance. So I have tried to analyze what keywords actually are being used together. I don't know what you see here, but I'll close this up. And so, of course, our keywords, even the core areas, are being used together in many data sets. So the thickness of the line between these keywords is relative to how frequently they are being used together. So based on this analysis, which is the most used keywords, or the keywords that are mostly used together, I have tried to come up with somewhat more reasonable subject areas. And so I have widened this population into biodiversity and added a lot of the keywords that are here in on this graph, and have looked for all of that. And then I've added a category of like abiotic conditions, which we don't seem to have. And I know that we have frequently talked about where does temperature go? For us in NTL, it's always hard on where does the oxygen concentration go? It's not really primary productivity, but it's certainly the parameter that we use for it. So this is what it looks like when I do that. And on the left side are the number of downloads in 2021. So I only analyzed 2021. And the black bottom part is what has been downloaded, what I consider being manual download. So there is the user agent is Mozilla and other browsers, while the gray part of the bars is a scripted download, which means it's R, Perl, Python. I think that's probably the most of them. And then on the right side, I have analyzed all the data citations that I've found in EDI and in the same kind of groups. And so nicely enough, I think what this picture says is that our data sets are being used pretty much across the board. So there's not one huge big peak in this area. It does look a little different when we look at, oops, what's this? Oh, sorry. These were the, no, what did I do here? Anyways, it looks different when we look at how the different length of data sets being downloaded. And I think this is a really assuring image that our long-term data sets are being downloaded a lot more and being cited a lot more. So I think this assures us that all these long-term observations are really valuable and are being used extensively. So in the citation, the relative download here of the one-year ones is probably a little higher than the download, which I think is another interesting aspect. So we do get now a lot of data sets that are being uploaded and then immediately cited within a paper. So many outside of LTR, we're getting these data sets. Oh, I need this DOI for my publication. And so that is probably the difference between the downloaded and the cited relative use here. And that is pretty much it, what we have prepared. And again, please, we see that we have new domains for our email addresses. So it is also EDIrepository.org, info and support. Please make a note of it. And please contact us with any kind of ideas, needs, help, requests, everything you would like to hear.